What is going on, everybody? Back at it with another video here on Review and Preview Sports. And in this video, I have a very special guest, Fonz DeFalco. Fonz, how's it going? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you, Tom, for having me on here. I love what you guys are doing, a review and preview. Have your own YouTube channel, multiple shows now. You guys have grown a lot in the past year since I've left, but I've been proud of what you guys have been able to do. So it's awesome stuff, and I appreciate you for having me on here. I'm excited.
Appreciate that. Now, tell the folks a little bit about you and what you've been up to over the past year, because I know people have probably been wondering, where's Fonz?
Yeah, people have been probably wondering, but yeah, no, I left with Review and Preview. I was focusing more with JDF Sports. I still do stuff over there with Four Corners, weekly professional wrestling show. I also have draft coverage over there, too. We're going to have our own draft special on JDF Sports. Have my own podcast still, Slickback Kickback Report, running the JDF YouTube channel. So you could say a jack of all trades. So I've been keeping myself busy for a while now. So hopefully the Review and Preview audience remembers who I am.
Absolutely. Always. Fonz obviously is going to be doing a couple of things with us as well. As we get closer to the draft, we're going to have you as part of our video reaction challenge and hopefully some more stuff as well. But I brought you here today because I wanted to talk about the Miami Hurricanes and some of their draft prospects. I kind of wanted to dive into, a college football team, get their top prospects, especially because we cover a lot of New York sports on Review and Preview. A lot of our fans are either Giants or Jets fans, and we realize that a team like the Giants are in dire need of some edge rushers heading into this draft early on.
Yep.
With Lorenzo Carter coming off a torn Achilles, entering his contract year, and then O'Shane Ximines missing 12 games last year due to a shoulder injury. And then, of course, we lost Kyler Fackrell to the Chargers in free agency. So the Miami Hurricanes, Fonz, will dive into some of their prospects, but there's been 3 solid pass rushers for them entering this year's draft. And the first one is Jaelan Phillips, who I happen to love, but I want to hear your thoughts on Jaelan Phillips and what he did this year down south.
Yeah, like you said, 3 pass rushers. You're lucky when a team would even get 1 decent one, but they've had 3. Well, 2 of them played this year. 1 took the year off, but still 3-headed monsters heading into the draft. We start off with Jaelan Phillips, 6'5", 266, former transfer from UCLA, goes to Miami, only had 21 tackles and 8 sacks, and you're thinking to yourself, that's not really a productive season. He didn't play as many games. He had a couple of knee injuries, missed a few games, and towards the end he had a concussion, so he ended up missing the back half of the season. He's an explosive edge rusher. When the games that he did play, he was very good. Big-bodied size, helped him a lot with Miami's pass rush, which was a little bit of a struggle since another guy we'll mention later, Gregory Rousseau, was not there. And he could come off the edge. Great timing as a pass rusher. The only really concern, though, like I just talked about, is the injury history. Obviously, when in the game of football, it's a crazy game. The last thing you want to see is a college player say, like, oh, he had concussions and knee troubles. And that was just during his time in Miami. I know previously in UCLA, he had a couple little injuries here and there, but he's always had a little bit of an injury bug. But when he's healthy and on the field, he's one of the top pass rushers heading into this draft. I know he's ranked pretty high right now. I think he's like the 3rd or 4th from like CBS Sports as far as like the edge rusher rankings. The talent is there. He's a very talented pass rusher. I'm a huge fan of him. The question I had, and I even said this on a 3-Man Weave podcast last week, I have questions of the injury history, especially if you're going to go with the first round. Now, if you get him in the 3rd or 4th round, no problem with that because you can take the gamble on that. If it doesn't work, you can try again in the draft. But as your first-round pick, especially for the team like the Giants, I know because they definitely need him at, what was it, 12th, I believe you guys have, the Giants?
We're at 11.
11, sorry about that. But at 11, and Phillips would fit perfectly in that situation in New York. But do you want the Giants that deal with another injury-riddled player at that spot? That's the question I would say because they've had some injury troubles here and there. I think as much as any other team. The last thing you want to do is do you want to put that in there, especially when you have a top pick in the draft. They had multiple picks in the first 2 rounds. I'd take the gamble, but when you have one that early and not the next one till like round 2, that's kind of the question I have. But I don't want to make it seem like I'm ripping apart this guy. I think he's very talented. I just question the injury history, and that's what I would worry about, especially when you have a top pick.
Exactly. And you mentioned CBS Sports had him at like 3rd or 4th. A lot of people have viewed him as the number 1 edge prospect.
If he was healthy, if he was fully healthy, no injury problems, I would say no question about it. He'd be at the top spot, I would think. And I think he'd be a lot higher in a lot of people's mocks. It's just the injuries are a little bit of a problem right now.
Right. And I know over his last 3 games, he had a total of 5.5 sacks, which is very impressive, Fonz. You talked about the injury concerns. I have the same concerns about him, but the Giants have been linked to him as a potential option.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see him falling in the first round? Because I know reports, rumors, whatever you want to call them, came out today that the Giants are looking at some other guys as well. The Jets, I'm not too sure where their heads are at the moment. I'd imagine one of their first. I'd imagine they'll go defense at 23.
Yeah.
But where do you see Phillips falling in this first round?
Well, there's a couple of teams I can see. I mean, obviously the Giants, I could definitely see him going there if they want to take the risk that early. I could see him going in the back half of the first with the Bills. I believe they're at, if I'm having the mock draft up here, or not the regular draft order, they're at 30. Hell, you can even go the Buccaneers, maybe at 32 if you want to add another pass rusher in there too. Can you imagine him and like Shaq Barrett together in Tampa? Tom Brady will probably absolutely love that. Where I would have him because of the injuries is the back half of the first round. Because, again, he's really talented, but the injuries are going to be a concern. And a team with a lot of players already on the roster, like the Bills or the Buccaneers, they don't need him as the primary guy off the bat. They can go him as like the second or third option and eventually develop into the full-time starter if he can stay healthy within the first couple of years. So if I had to go with like a guess of like a range right now, I'd probably say that, Titans at 22 to like Tampa Bay. If he goes in the first round, that'd be like 22. Would start seeing teams kind of looking for him, because of they don't need him to, be the full-time guy right away and develop him in there because of the injuries. So, but if the Giants want to take the gamble at 12, by all means, if they have the good medical staff to help him out, it's just that's the question. But if I go right now, I'd say the back half of the first round.
And you mentioned the Bills at 30. Actually, that's where I have him falling. I have him. It's interesting because he's a prospect that can go as high as 11, but as low as the end of the first round. So I think the Bills are definitely an excellent team fit. They're in dire need of an edge, not to mention they are a New York football team. So that's interesting. I know Fonz, you're a little closet Bills fan there.
A little bit. Just a tad people.
Just a tad
people. But he would fit really well in Buffalo. He would definitely fit well over there.
Yeah, learning behind guys like Jerry Hughes and that. So, yeah, it should be interesting. But let's dive into the next prospect. Let's talk about Gregory Rousseau. This guy only, I think, a redshirt sophomore, an edge player. Big guy, 6'7", who did not play.
Say, you see the size, like you thought Phillips was a big guy. Rousseau is bigger. See,
Bigger.
I think you said 6'7", 265. So, I mean, around the same weight, but a couple inches taller. He didn't play last year because he opted out of the season, which a lot of players, the top guys like Jamar Chase did. But the year prior, he had 34 tackles, 15 and a half sacks. I want you to let that sink in. 15 and a half sacks in one college season is very, very impressive. Explosive pass rusher and a great athleticism. And he's only a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, so he could have more time to develop. He has so much potential through the roof with him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, even after a year, which could maybe raise some questions. You'd be like, he hasn't played organized football in a year. That could benefit him because he never risked the injury, but also hurt him because maybe if he I'll say lost a step, but has to get back into the game speed since he didn't play in well over a year. So he's effective at the 3-point stance. Great eye for the ball, just like with Phillips. It would have been nice to see Phillips and Rousseau play together. That would have been ridiculous. But Rousseau has a lot of upside because he is a few years younger, and there's a lot of potential with Rousseau there.
Right, and you mentioned 15 and a half sacks in 2019. That was after missing the first 6 games, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken.
He missed some time too as well. And I mean, that's just incredible. I don't know why not a lot of people are talking about Rousseau as much as Phillips. Rousseau is ranked pretty low as far as just the edge rusher in the draft, which is kind of crazy to think about. I know the year off maybe kind of hurt him a little bit, but even then, Jamar Chase missed a year, and he's still ranked as the best receiver in the draft right now. Why isn't Rousseau in this conversation? I even said before in 3-Man Weave, I take Rousseau over Phillips because of the potential, and he's had a clean bill of health outside of the 1 year where he missed a couple of games, but he's came back and he hasn't missed it since. And he took a year off, so it's definitely going to help him out. I had him. Personally, I would have had him a lot more than Phillips right now because of the clean bill of health.
Right. And I remember his 4-sack game against Florida State. That was definitely a fun game to watch for a Hurricanes fan like you, Fonz. But I know you mentioned what some of his strengths are. You view him more as a 3-tech type of player, a guy who puts his hand in the dirt.
Yeah.
Any concerns about him, though? Any specific concerns that you have about Rousseau?
I think sometimes he's basically just like a pass rusher. He can struggle a little bit with defending the run. And also on top of that, with that 1 year he played, he only played just one like full year of college football.
Yeah.
He didn't really, because he took the year off because opting out of last year and then redshirted the year prior. So there's a lot of concern that he didn't play enough, but when he did, it was incredible. But that's the one concern I would say. Well, two actually, defending the run, and also the fact that he didn't play as much organized ball as like the other pass rushers in the draft, including his teammate Phillips.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you mentioned how when you were on three-man weave, he's been ranked a lot lower in a lot of these mock drafts. Now, is he a first-round talent? I mean, I certainly think he is, but where do you see him going in this draft?
If he played this year, I would have definitely said back half first, mid first, because of if he had that same production, even a little bit higher too, if he had the same exact season for 2 years in a row. But because of the potential, I mean, call me crazy because a lot of teams need pass rushers, right? You're going to see abundance of pass rushers being taken.
No,
I could see, I'm not saying first round, but I could see him in the mid second round, late second round. I could see a team. I got some other teams too, like I have right here, the Jets could take him in the second round. The Lions could also add him in the pass rusher, or he can stay home in Miami with the Dolphins with the abundance of draft picks they have too. Hell, if the Giants want to take it in the second round, if they want to just go for like Waller or somebody in the first round, they can go for Rousseau in the second round. I can definitely see that being a thing too. The Giants can they have potential to get both of those guys, like one at the first or one in the second. You can never go wrong with having too many pass rushers. And I think in the second round, I could definitely see his name being called mid second round, late second round.
What I don't understand is a lot of YouTube content creators have been specifically saying stay away from these two Miami guys, Rousseau because of not playing last year, and Phillips because of his injury history. How he might be a concussion away from ending his football career.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are concerns that are fair. But what was crazy was before the Browns signed Jadeveon Clowney today, I had the Browns taking Rousseau. Yeah. I actually had him in the back end of my first round. Now, I don't follow the Hurricanes as much as you do, Fonz, but thinking more about it now, I feel like he could be definitely more of a second round type of talent.
I mean, if he goes in the late first round, it wouldn't shock me depending on how many pass rushers are taking him prior. People want to take the gamble, but I would realistically say second round, Browns would not be. I mean, if now they have JV and Clowney, but the Browns would have not been a bad option too. And they can still grab him too because Clowney's only 1 year. They can develop Rousseau into putting him next to Myles Garrett down the line. That would be an incredible duo right there.
Yeah.
Rousseau, he should go to a team that has a lot of already established pass rushers and learn behind those guys. I don't think it's the best for him to come in there and be the main guy or even the second guy off the bat. Come in there and be a rotational guy to start and then to definitely develop into a full-time pass rusher by year 2 or 3.
Right. Now, the next guy we're going to talk about, I believe it's pronounced Quincy Roche, edge rusher.
Yeah, Quincy Roche, the third guy that not a lot of people really talk about because the two studs they had prior. I believe he's even ranked. He's ranked way lower. I think he's the 15th best pass rusher compared to the other guys mentioned. He's a little bit smaller, 6'2", 243, but he's a tough defensive front seven player and fluid motion. He's a good solid pass rusher and a good lineman. Very good rotational guy with the likes of Rousseau or Phillips. He was able to be the second guy when they were both in, when it was Phillips 1 year and then Rousseau the other year. The one thing I would say with the negatives is probably the poor size. When you want a pass rusher, the last thing you want to see maybe is like 6'2", 243. Sometimes it's work for some players, but you rarely see that. You want them to be a little bit taller. So it wouldn't shock me if he goes in the like a early day 3 pick as maybe as like a special teams guy, I would say. An occasional maybe third down pass rusher in a situation. But I think he's gonna make a roster. I definitely not a question about it. He probably will mainly spend his time in his career as a special teams player and a situational pass rusher.
Yeah, I agree. He could be that strip sack type of player you're looking for on a third down when teams are passing the football.
He's a good athlete and tough too. Like that'd be perfect for special teams, I would say.
Now in 2019, you mentioned he played across Rousseau. He had 13 sacks. So between those two combined, that's 28 and a half sacks, which is very impressive. His career went upward from 2017 to 2019 in the sack total department. Well, 7 as a freshman, 6 as a sophomore, 13 as a junior. This year, only 4.5 as a senior.
Yeah, production went down a little because when you had the Phillips there too and a bunch of other guys, and the Miami really struggled to get anything this whole year too, offense and defensive side. But but if you're going to ask me like with Rousseau, like where you would see him, I mean, I can definitely see him again like a day 3 guy, a special teams guy, Bring him on a team that already has established guys, way more established guys, say like the Rams, the Falcons, could even go into the Cardinals too to learn behind a couple of those guys over there. The Raiders could be not also a solid option too. I know they have Corey Littleton as like their not edge rusher, but like their linebacker, but he can go in there too and learn from him to be a special teams guy because Littleton's a former special teams ace for the Rams. Can learn from him on how to be a good special teams player. So I keep saying it's going to be like a broken record, but I could definitely see being a special teams guy, an occasional situation pass rusher.
I like that. And then the last question on him, what impresses you the most about his game? If there's one trait you got to pick.
I definitely say like the technique for like his size too. Because when you think of like what's the ideal size for a pass rusher, you would say?
Like 6'4", 6'5".
6'4", 6. Rousseau and Phillips are like a little bit of the outer, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think he's 6'2", though. That's the thing, the way he plays. Like he plays like he's like Phillips or Rousseau size. So that's the one thing I would say, that he's a tough guy off the block. It definitely help him out, but it could, with the size, definitely could hurt against like the taller tackles in the league. So definitely say size is going to be a concern for him. But if you're going to put him in there and be like a rotational pass rusher, it wouldn't be the problem. I wouldn't say it's a guy that you trust from day one to be your starter from the get-go.
That's an interesting one for sure. I'm interested to see where he falls. And now the fourth one, Brevin Jordan, tight end, junior.
Yeah.
This is interesting because I think the last tight end, at least my Giants took out of Miami, was Jeremy Shockey. I certainly wouldn't mind a Miami tight end.
Who's I don't think there was another Miami tight end. No, there had to be one more. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm really drawing a blank on that one too. But I'll say Brevin Jordan. I'm a huge fan of Brevin Jordan. If Kyle Pitts wasn't around, if Kyle Pitts, you lock him in as a wide receiver, I'd say Brevin Jordan is the second best tight end in this draft, in this class, outside of Pitts, obviously. But if you put Pitts at wide receiver, I'd say Brevin Jordan's one. I've seen him play for years with Miami, and I knew from the start, like, this guy's going to be playing on Sundays. He's solid tight end, and also can line up in the slot receiver. He's basically just like a built wide receiver. Good the yards after catch, solid short route runner. I think a lot of teams could definitely use him, especially with now leagues that want to have a two tight end set, one for like mainly blocking, one for receiving. So he could definitely fit in a system. Look at like the Saints. The Panthers, if they don't go Kyle Pitts in round one, they can definitely get Brevin Jordan in the later rounds. The Chargers too. And you know what? I mean, just for depth, I wouldn't mind him on the Ravens too with Mark Andrews. That'd be one hell of a combo. So Brevin Jordan can go anywhere. Bills too, I would say also. I originally had him going 30 to the Bills in my mock draft a while back. But he's been slipping a lot. I think because of the rise of the pass rushers. The tight end class is very thin because it's Pitts, Jordan, and the Penn State guy. I can't pronounce his last name.
Freiermuth. Yeah. You think he's better?
I think Jordan is better than Freiermuth. I think Freiermuth, it's very close. I know Freiermuth's I'll give Freiermuth the edge on the blocking, but Jordan, I think, is the better route runner and the receiver as far as the tight end. Freiermuth's a very traditional, old school tight end that's like a blocking tight end that can catch a ball here and there. Jordan is like the modern day of like can go out and catch passes, no problem. I think 576 yards and 7 touchdowns. He'd be a good red zone target for any team right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize you had him ranked second on your tight end board, but that's very, very interesting.
He's good. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. I mean, he averaged over 15 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns this year. Player who really improved with age. I mean, I personally have him as my third, but
I can see the argument for both. That's the thing with Freiermuth. I've seen people say Jordan 2, Freiermuth 2. I've seen there's an argument for both. They're both solid. 2 different play styles. It also depends on what the team needs for. If they have a tight end that already has a traditional blocker, they want to go for Jordan. If they have a guy like Jordan, they would go for Freiermuth.
Right. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, he played with De'Ara King this past year. He was really good. Any concerns about Jordan?
The one, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not there's not really a major concern. I mean, he is a short route runner, I would say, but he's not like the guy that can go for like the long ball, whatever. I know some tight ends can now do that, can go like the Travis Kelce, can go like a go route, no problem, can run like a post route or whatever. He's a modern one that can run routes, but I wouldn't say anything past 10 yards he can struggle with a little bit there. And sometimes with the catch after the yards after catch, he can struggle with a little bit, he can get some separation. But there are moments you've seen him where he has flash that he can do it. So I would probably say more of like he's a short route tight end as opposed to like the modern one, the real modern one you see now with like Kelce and like Gronk.
Got it. That's interesting for sure. I think he would be an excellent target for a lot of teams, maybe in that second to third round range. I think you think he's a day 2 guy as well?
I would say Highest I would see him is day 2. Day 2 is rounds 2 and 3. So I would probably say
Yeah.
day 2 if as like maybe like a late second, early third round pick too, depending on if Fryermound's taken. Also, if I see him in day 3, it'll be a huge shock. I think that'd be a steal if you get him in round 4.
Any other Hurricanes players you want to discuss before we move on to our little bonus segment?
Well, I mean, Tom, we're not going to go that much into it, but I guess I'll go to the Miami. There's one more. We don't really talk about them as much, but Jose Barrales, their kicker, the very accurate kicker for them this year. I know we don't talk a lot about kickers. Is the number 1 ranked kicker right now out of the only 4 that are on here. Again, I mean, if teams need a kicker, I mean, you can get him definitely in the late day 3, maybe an undrafted guy. I don't know if listen, we can. No one can scout kickers perfectly. We still have no idea. But hey, you know what? It's good to see Miami have some more guys entering the draft. And if Barrales can have a solid career, more power to him. So that's probably just a bonus guy I would mention. You got to give some love to the kickers.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that last year with Rodrigo Blankenship. He was taken late in the draft, and now
I think Blankenship was undrafted, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, you're right. Yeah,
the Jets took a kicker and it didn't work out. Or one team took
I think he was undrafted.
There was one kicker that was drafted, and we were all like, Rodrigo Blankenship was the way better kicker, and he wasn't even taken. So that's what I'm saying. You don't know. You don't know with kickers.
The Patriots took Rohrwasser, if you remember.
He never made the roster. I don't know.
No, I think he was on their practice squad. But yeah, that's crazy. But speaking of draft, let's get into it, Fonz. You're a big Ravens fan. Want to do a quick 4-round mock draft with you to see where your head is at, where you're thinking. Obviously, in the offseason, some team notes the Ravens signed a wide receiver, Sammy Watkins, in free agency, and but wide receiver is still a need for you guys. And then, of course, you signed Kevin Zeitler. Ooh, that breaks my heart. Cap casualty for the Giants to a 3-year deal, but you did lose Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, so there are some needs on this team. The Ravens have 7 picks. What do you think of those additions quickly and losses before we get into the draft?
Yeah, well, the loss of Judon and Ngakoue hurts because we traded for Ngakoue just to rent him out to see. It didn't work out. Judon's a 2-time Pro Bowler for us. Somehow the Ravens can always draft solid pass rushers in the mid-rounds of the draft from Grand Valley State. It was very good for us. I knew after we had to do the franchise tag, it was a little bit of a rough way. It's hard to sign him. You say the Giants have a tradition of like they don't re-sign their linemen after their rookie deals. It's like the Ravens with their linebackers outside of Ray Lewis and Bart Scott, like Donnell Ellerbe, Zadarius Smith, Matthew Judon. It's just the guys after the rookie deals that just let them go, and that it really didn't shock me. I hope he does well in the Patriots. Don't get me wrong; it sucks that I'm not gonna see him around here in a Raven uniform for the long haul. And going on the offensive side, I like the Zeitler pickup. It's good replacement for Marshall Yanda. He's very solid lineman. I think no one talks about him as like he's an underrated guard. I feel like no one really talks about him as like the top guard conversation. Very good. I think he's going to do really well in the Ravens. And the wide receiver thing, and we'll get to the mock draft in a second. I am worried because this needs to help out Lamar. Lamar has not had a receiver over 800 yards in his career in only 3 years. Marquise Brown was like the close one. I think he was close to 800. I think he might have been maybe slightly over, but Allen Robinson, he re-signed the franchise tag. T.Y. Hilton said no. Kenny Galladay rejected us, said no. Juju Smith-Schuster rejected us and said no. I don't have a problem with Sammy Watkins. We got him on a cheap deal. He can be a consistent receiver for us, but like if that's like your big free agent prize on the offensive side, I am worried unless we do something in this draft. That's the one problem. Well, Lamar needs the big body number 1 wide receiver, and we'll get to that in my mock draft for my round 1 pick. You can only have so many speedy guys like Hollywood Brown. You can have them, but I don't think you need them as your number 1 guy. So I'm worried a little about the receiver side, but as far as like the backs and the linemen, I'm all good for them. I'm all excited for the team.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are in a good spot to improve their team in the draft. Obviously, still in search of that true number 1 wideout. But let's get into our first round pick. And Fonz, as the guest, I'll let you go first. The Ravens picked 27th overall in the first round. Who do you got? You're on the clock.
If it's not a receiver, I'm going to be very, very upset, Tom, in the live reaction I'm going to record, by the way. I'm going to be very upset in our JDF live draft coverage. I haven't taken Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. 6'2" wide receiver. That is something that the Ravens absolutely need. A very good route runner, solid hands, good durability, yards after catch. This is going to help out Lamar. I'm not saying that can help him out be like, MVP, 1,000-yard or whatever, but it's going to give Lamar some consistency, a consistent thrower to throw to, and help out guys like Hollywood Brown, Devin Duvernay and Sammy Watkins to get them more targets too, and you could develop them nicely. The Ravens have so much trouble developing wide receivers. But Bateman, you cannot pass up on him. I have him going in the first round. The Ravens are going to go with another wide receiver with Rashad Bateman.
I like that. I don't know if he falls that far. I mean, I think if he does, you got to take him, right?
Yeah, this wide receiver class is deep. That's the thing, too. I don't know. Because you got Chase, Waddle, Smith, Rondell Moore, Kadarius Tooney, and then Terrence Marshall, and then you do have Bateman and Elijah Moore, so it's all over the place too. Terrence Marshall's also a solid option at 6'3", but I would go for Bateman first. But Marshall would not be a solid backup option. I just think they need to go some receiver. Just go any receiver at this point. Best available receiver, just go for it.
So I'm not the biggest fan of taking a wide receiver in round one in general, because a lot of these gems that you've seen as of late, like for instance, Stephon Diggs for the Buffalo Bills, Adam Thielen for the Vikings, these are not first round draft picks. In fact, majority of receivers that come in and have a lot of success in this league are not first round picks. But despite saying that, I do have the Ravens taking a wide receiver in the first round. I have them taking Terrace Marshall, actually, because I have Bateman off my board at that point. I have them taking him. Junior out of LSU, had 10 touchdowns last year, had 13 with Joe Burrow a year before that. And I think he's a guy that could definitely take the top off of defense for the Baltimore Ravens. I think wide receiver is a huge need, and I think you address it right away. I think either that or the edge rusher position or offensive line. But I think wide receiver is where they go at 27.
Yeah, I like Marshall a lot too. He's very good. I think he potentially be very good wherever he goes, and that wouldn't be a bad option if he's there. If Bateman's gone and Marshall's there, you go for it. And I do agree with what you're saying, though. Sometimes you don't need you shouldn't get a wide receiver, but for situations like the Ravens that feel like that's like the number one dire need,
right? Then
you go for it. That's especially in the back half of the first round. It's not like a top 10 pick. I mean, even look like the Bengals or the Dolphins, like they don't have necessarily like a huge need. Like that's what they need, but they can get guys like Chase or Devontae Smith, and that'd be perfect for their offense to complete it. So it really just all depends on the situation. If you do get a receiver in the first round, the Ravens fall into that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Heading on to round two, I think this is where you begin to think about where a lot of your scouting goes into, rounds 2 through 7, right? This is where a lot of your detail-oriented information comes from. Who do you have the Ravens taking 58th overall in the draft?
This might be a little bit of a crazy one because I don't know if he'll be here, but he could fall because he's had multiple injuries at Alabama. But what happened in the playoff game for the Ravens? The snapping of the ball to Lamar against Buffalo. They went through 3 different centers last year, 2 or 3. I have him going Landon Dickerson, a center out of Alabama. Now, he's had some season-ending injuries here and there, but the Ravens have had a history of drafting injury guys and kind of making them full-time players. Hollywood Brown had a foot injury coming out of Oklahoma. He's been relatively healthy the whole time. That's the most recent one. So they have the good training staff to help him out. And he's an Alabama guy. And Ozzie Newsome, who's now not directly affiliated, but he's like kind of oversees everything and kind of gives him like little like boosts here and there or whatever. He's an Alabama guy too. So you always see the Ravens have had a good history of drafting Alabama players. So, yeah, it could be more of a gamble if anything, but to help out that center spot, Dickerson could be a first-round talent if he didn't have all his injuries. It'd be perfect for the Ravens in the second round.
Yeah, I think Dickerson could be a good fit for them, too, not to mention they already have a Bama offensive lineman in Bradley Bozeman at left guard. So it'll be interesting to see. Patrick McCarry was awful in that playoff game. He shouldn't be starting.
Matt Starker was hurt a couple of games prior, so they need to rebuild up there in the center spot.
That they do. But for me, I considered interior offensive line at 58, but I felt the edge was more of a priority here because they lost Matt Judon. They lost Yannick Ngakoue. I have them taking Jordan Smith out of UAB. He's a junior, very quiet, under the radar type of guy, but he's 6'7", 255 pounds, 10 sacks in 2019 and had 4.5 sacks this past year. He is a huge dude, so that's who I have them taking there.
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. Listen, if the Ravens, this, they've done just best available at the time. Second round, they didn't need a running back last year. Who was the best guy on the board? J.K. Dobbins, and now he's trying to be going to be a solid player for them going forward. So they've done that before. They just take best available. This is kind of more based on a team need. More helping out, kind of building up Lamar Jackson when I did a receiver in the first round and a center in the second round. But we get to rounds 3 and 4, you're going to see me building up their defense now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's definitely a good strategy to have. But Actually, let's hear your round 3 pick because that's what we're up to at this point. Number 104 overall.
So I have them going. They already have Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott. You now get into the round 3s and 4s and beyond, where it's like you don't need them to start right away, but to be a contributor, to go in like nickel and dime packages, special teams, and maybe develop into eventually a starter if like the guys you have now leave for other pastures. I am going Indiana safety Jamar Johnson, 6'5", 205, a versatile safety that can play next to both Clark and Elliott, and also can be taking over one of them in 2022 per se. 6 interceptions in 20 games over the final 2 seasons. And then he had 2, I believe, was against Ohio State. And I was looking this up because I have it up here too. According to PFF, he allowed a passer rating of just 27.5 in coverage in 2020, breaking up 4 passes and not surrendering a single touchdown. That could help us out in the long. I like Clark and Elliott, but I think you need some more boost in the secondary, especially when you have 2 solid corners and Marcus Peters and Humphrey and Jimmy Smith also. Put Jamar Johnson out there and put them rotating with those guys. That'd be a very sneaky good pickup, I think, in the 3rd round.
Absolutely. I think that would be an excellent pick for them as well. I flirted with that idea as well, taking safety at 3, but obviously I have not picked a center for them yet. So I'm going to do that now because you have to replace Macari. I have them taking Josh Myers out of Ohio State, 104 overall. I think he falls this far because – I don't necessarily see safety as a huge need in round 2 center in round 2 for a lot of teams. I think guys like Creed Humphrey and Lander Dickerson will go off the board at that point. I don't think a guy like Josh Myers will. He's an inside zone center for a run-heavy offense. Sound familiar? That sounds like your type of offense.
A little bit. Sounds a little familiar.
6'5", 312. I would take that as a center, especially out of Ohio State as well. I think him and Lamar could develop an excellent chemistry there. Obviously, playing at Ohio State is definitely on the Ryan Day is a tremendous feat, and he was able to help them get into the college football playoff, snapping with Justin Fields all year. I know they did not have a full season, but he came in and was one of the best centers in college football. So I have him going here.
Wouldn't be a bad option either. It depends on if they go edge rusher in round 2, and the round 3 get him at the center spot. That's perfect. I actually don't hate that pick at all.
No, I mean, and then that would pretty much round out your line. I feel like because your tackles are set with Brown and Stan.
Well, Brown, you also don't know because we might move him because of the situation. That's if he stays right now. If we convince him to stay around, then that would be perfect. But again, we'll see what happens. Maybe we trade Brown to move up a couple of picks or whatever. But right now, if it's like what you said they get one of the centers in the draft, Zeitler and Bozeman as the 2 guards, and Brown and Stanley as the tackles. That's a very damn good offensive line, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take a center, which I'm sure you will, your left tackle across to right guard is set. It's just the question mark is Orlando Brown. I think you're really
perfect. I wish you could stay.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy Kevin Zeitler a lot, but a lot. I mean that. You can get him on a lot cheaper deal than $12 million a year that we were going to have to pay him. But 4th round, final pick in this mock that we're going to do, number 131 overall. Who do you got?
So this is very similar to a Judon pick. I'm going Patrick Johnson, edge rusher from Tulane. Ideal 3-4 set. So this is like perfect for the Ravens because they run a 3-4 defense. It needs a little bit of time to develop, I'd say, but it's perfect for the Ravens because they've always developed their pass rusher solid. They can drop back in coverage when needed, a solid pass rusher. They've had a good history of getting small school guys or lower level school guys in the later mid rounds for the pass rushing spot. I go back to Matthew Judon from Grand Valley State. Tulane's a little bit more of a bigger program than Grand Valley State, but get Patrick Johnson here in the 4th round, that can help him out and can eventually develop into a full-time starter. So I would say Patrick Johnson would be a good spot for them in the 4th round.
Patrick Johnson out of Tulane. Nice. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see if he falls that far because I know he had a pretty good pro day.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. As of right now, he could be a 4th round guy, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he moves up a little bit. This is my ideal perfect draft right now,
So for me, I have them going safety here. So I'm pretty sure we all took the same. We both took the same 4 positions, just in different rounds. So I have them taking Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri, senior.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Physical hitter in run support, which you need, and an ideal addition to a dime package. A lot of teams. I mean, you look at the offenses in your division. You have the Bengals who air it out a lot, and the Steelers. I mean, not so much Cleveland, but those other two teams you play twice a year, a guy like him could benefit in that. You want a third safety that could play, that can be versatile, play some nickel, play some dime, and play some back end as well. So, or maybe a rover safety position. But what do I know? I think Gillespie would be a really good pick here.
Would be solid. Would be solid. I'll give you that one. Very solid.
Yeah, so that's our mock draft for the Baltimore Ravens. We went over all 4 picks. I think Baltimore's in an interesting spot because you have two young and up and coming teams, and the Browns and potentially the Bengals, and you have a team that could be entering a rebuild in a year or two in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, they don't have a quarterback answer long term. They don't have a running back right now either. I don't trust Benny Snell, so I'd expect them to draft one. But any final thoughts, Fonz, you have on your Baltimore Ravens or Miami Hurricanes?
Well, I'm excited to see where Rousseau and Phillips end up, and obviously Roche too, and Brevin Jordan. I'm going to be wherever he goes. I'm going to root for Brevin Jordan. But with the Ravens, I've said it again: receiver. Get a receiver in the first or second round, please. You got to help Lamar. I can't take this. I don't think Lamar deserves the slander until you give him a legit number 1 option wide receiver. So that's what I would say. That's just all I'm going to say. And then if we can trade Orlando Brown for a couple of draft picks. Hey, what if we trade him to move up a little bit to get Jaelan Waddle or somebody? I would be all for it. I would love that. Brown has been proven that he can be a premier left tackle, and I think a lot of teams would be willing to trade down for a left tackle in Brown.
Definitely. I think he would be a good addition to any football team that's looking to fill that left or right tackle void. But Fonz, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was a lot of fun.
No, not a problem, Tom. Thank you so much for having me. Again, like I said before, I love what you guys are doing that review and preview. Definitely, everyone, please check out their stuff. They're doing a great job, so great to see.
Appreciate the love, Fonz. Make sure to check out Fonz the Falco as well on JDF Sports, host of 4 Corners, and he manages their YouTube page. So that's always good stuff for Fonz, and also the Slickback Kick Report that he runs. You run an episode pretty much every week on that,
pretty much every week. So definitely subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Do video versions when I have guests on. Just look back, Kickback Report wherever you get your podcast. Fonz the Falco on YouTube, JDF on YouTube. I'm all over the place. I definitely would appreciate support here. So thank you again, Tom, for having me.
No problem. Anytime. We'll have to have you back on in the future. But until then, for Fonz the Falco, I'm Tom Scavetta. Thank you all for watching this special edition video here on Review and Preview Sports.